For centuries, the Vatican has guarded not only relics and sacred rites, but secrets, some buried by time, others deliberately, and among these whispers of the forbidden, one name surfaces again and again: the Book of the 12. In 2008, during the restoration of a 16th-century chapel just outside Vatican City, a team of conservators encountered an anomaly, a section of wall that rang hollow. Behind the plaster, a sealed cavity. Within it, what appeared to be a scroll. Not parchment, but thin sheets of gold leaf, etched with glyphs in Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. That scroll was never mentioned in any Vatican press release. But an anonymous source, a linguist working under private contract, leaked portions of the translation to an academic forum before the account was swiftly removed. The document, she claimed, was titled in Greek, to Dodeca, the 12. But this was not the 12 apostles as we know them. The names diverged, the structure was different, and the message radically so. Let us pause and root this in history. In the first 2 centuries after Jesus, there was no single Christian doctrine. Communities scattered across Egypt, Syria, and Judea kept their own gospels. The Gospel of the Hebrews, the Gospel of Mary, the Didache, and Thomas. Some used Greek, others Aramaic. There were even Jewish Christian sects, like the Ebionites, who rejected Paul and claimed Jesus was entirely human, an anointed teacher, not a god. Many of these groups revered a broader council of disciples, not just the 12 canonized in today's New Testament. According to the leaked transcript, the Book of the 12 includes figures known in early Christianity, but later suppressed. Mariamne, believed to be Mary Magdalene under her original Semitic name. Eleazar, a priestly follower. Judith, a prophetess unnamed in canonical lists. And perhaps most curious, Thomas the twin, sometimes called Didymus Judas Thomas, who features prominently in Gnostic traditions. These names are not invented. Thomas the twin is the source of the Gospel of Thomas, discovered in Nag Hammadi, Egypt in 1945. Mariamne is linked to early Magdalene traditions found in the Berlin Codex, dating to the 5th century. And Thecla, a female disciple, is described in the Acts of Paul and Thecla, once read publicly in churches before being banned. So the Book of the 12 appears not as invention, but as a reassembly, a mirror held to history's shadow. But what unsettled the Vatican, according to the source, was not the names, it was the message. The book begins not with a birth, a virgin, or a miracle, but with a question: where is the kingdom you were told to wait for? This echoes the Gospel of Thomas, Logion 3. The kingdom of God is inside you and all around you. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Such teachings bypass temples, priests, even doctrines. They suggest that divinity is not in heaven, but in consciousness. And so the scroll was hidden, removed from sight, codified in the vaults known only to the Archivum Secretum, the Vatican's forbidden shelf. But history, like fire, leaves its scent long after the flames are gone. The Book of the 12, if genuine, fits a known pattern, a gospel erased, but not forgotten. What did the 12 teach that threatened an empire? What ancient truth did this book preserve, buried beneath centuries of silence? The message within the book. It begins not with power, but with presence. According to the leaked fragments of the Book of the 12, the Gospel opens with a vision, a gathering of 12 lights circling a flame. Each speaks in turn, not recounting miracles, not condemning sin, but offering riddles, teachings to awaken the divine spark in the listener. This phrase, "You are not the vessel, you are the fire," appears in multiple early mystical sources. In fact, the same line is found in fragmentary scrolls of the Odes of Solomon, an early Christian hymn book omitted from canon. Here too we see a theology rooted not in atonement, but in awakening. According to the 12, Jesus was not crucified to purchase salvation, but to demonstrate the illusion of death. The scroll states, "He went willingly to show that death holds no claim over the awakened." Compare this to the Gospel of Philip, where it is written, "Those who say the Lord died first and then rose are in error. He rose first, then died." A clear reference to spiritual resurrection, not bodily suffering. Mariamne, often dismissed in later orthodoxy, is presented here as a spiritual equal, a teacher in her own right. Her verses speak of reflection, of light, of silence. She teaches that the Logos, the Word, is not a man, but a state of being. The Word was not made flesh. The Word is what awakens flesh to spirit. In the early centuries, many Christian sects included female teachers. The Gospel of Mary shows her comforting the other disciples after the crucifixion. The Pistis Sophia gives her over 40 questions answered by Christ, and in the Apocryphon of John, she is described as one who knew all things. The Book of the 12 continues this legacy, and that made it dangerous. The Gospel does not only teach doctrine, it reveals practices, breathwork, light rituals, sound resonance. The scroll speaks of 3 vibrations that open the seal of knowing. One phrase is chillingly specific. "When the sound of the heart matches the silence of the stars, the door shall open." These rites align with what we find in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in Qumran, particularly the songs of the Sabbath sacrifice, which include angelic chants and cosmic schematics. In Alexandria, early Christian hermeticists taught that the body was a temple, and that initiation into truth required sound, breath, and silence. The Book of the 12 reflects this same mystical template, which may suggest its origin in the Egyptian Judean borderlands, a cradle of suppressed wisdom. Perhaps no line from the book is more controversial than this. There is no sin, there is only forgetfulness. To orthodoxy this is blasphemy, but to mystics it is liberation. Compare to the Gospel of Truth, discovered in 1945. Ignorance of the Father brought terror and fear, but the light shines in darkness, and darkness cannot contain it. Sin in this theology is not moral failure, but separation from one's divine source. The Book of the 12 describes the soul's descent and return. Similar to the Valentinian Gnostics, it divides reality into levels, with each gate representing a spiritual illusion. Above all, the illusion that we are merely human. Again and again, the scroll returns to a single theme, remembrance, not conversion, not belief, but the recollection of something already known. The Book of the 12 teaches that Christ was not the exception, but the example. You are not to worship the light, it reads, but to recognize it as your own reflection, a metaphor, a mystery, or a blueprint for transformation. This is not mythology. It is consistent with documented teachings from texts once deemed canonical by early churches and only later rejected. If this message survived even in fragments, to why was it buried? Who decided what we were allowed to remember and what we must forget? In Act 3, we follow the journey of suppression, from councils to catacombs. In the next chapter, we step inside the text itself and listen to what the Church could not allow the world to hear. The suppression and the surviving spark. The early followers of Jesus did not speak with one voice. From Egypt to Syria, from Judea to Rome, their writings diverged, their gospels conflicted, and their visions of Christ were many. In 325 AD, this pluralism came to an end. Emperor Constantine summoned the Council of Nicaea, not to explore truth, but to define it. There were dozens of gospels, Thomas, Mary, Peter, Philip, truth, but only 4 would be canonized. All others were labeled apocrypha, hidden, or worse, heretical. It wasn't theology that won the day, it was politics. As Eusebius wrote, the Church must be of one mind, lest heresy fracture the empire from within. By the 5th century, the canon was closed. Texts outside it were to be destroyed. Priests loyal to alternative gospels were exiled, silenced, or worse. In his Easter letter of 367 AD, Athanasius names 27 approved books and condemns the rest as books of heretics to be avoided at all cost. And yet, some were not destroyed, they were hidden. The Vatican's own Archivum Secretum, or secret archive, holds over 50 miles of shelving. Scholars have confirmed its existence. Few are granted access. Fewer still know its full contents. What lies there? Among whispers, the Gospel of Eve, the Acts of Paul and Thecla, the Book of Enoch, and perhaps the Book of the 12. But even the best-kept secrets unravel. In 1945, a farmer digging near Nag Hammadi unearthed a sealed jar. Inside, 13 codices, including the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Truth, and the Apocryphon of John. Texts once thought lost forever. Some echo lines from the Book of the 12, despite being buried thousands of miles away. A phrase from the Gospel of Thomas, "Split a piece of wood and I am there," matches a line attributed to the 12. He is in the fire and the silence. There is nowhere he is not. This is not coincidence, it is shared lineage, a common spiritual thread, preserved underground. The followers of the 12 did not vanish, they migrated to the caves of Syria, the deserts of Egypt. They left behind not monuments but manuscripts. We find echoes of their thought in the Scythians, the Valentinians and the Cathars, each of whom upheld a truth hidden from empire.